Closing the family bakery at dawn, young Baker found her regulate was the twin declared stillborn. The first pale light of morning slipped through the old lace curtains of Rosewood Family Bakery, painting soft gold across the empty display cases. Amelia Harper stood alone among the silent mixers and cooling racks, turning the key in the front door for the very last time. 32 years of cinnamon mornings, wedding cakes, and birthday donuts were ending today. The bank had won. Tomorrow the windows would be papered, the ovens sold, and the little bell above the door would never ring again. Amelia rested her forehead against the cool glass and let the tears come quietly. Every dawn for the past 15 years, the same quiet man had arrived exactly at He never spoke much. Gray coat, gentle eyes, always asked for one cinnamon raisin muffin and one black coffee. He sat at the corner table by the window, read yesterday's newspaper, and left a $5 bill under the plate even when the total was only $3. Amelia called him Mr. Thomas in her mind, though he had never given a name. On hard days, she found herself watching the clock for his soft knock, the only steady thing left in a life that kept crumbling. The night before the closing, the grief had been heavier than usual. Amelia stayed until the stars faded, boxing recipes her grandmother wrote in faded ink, wrapping the ceramic mixing bowl her mother carried home the day she was born. She thought of the story whispered in hospital corridors 32 years ago, how her mother had delivered twins, how one little boy never took a breath, how they buried an empty blanket because the tiny body was too fragile to hold. Amelia grew up carrying that shadow, the missing piece that made every birthday feel half complete. As she turned from the locked door that final morning, she saw him standing on the sidewalk. Mr. Thomas held a small paper bag the way he always did, but his eyes carried something different today. Amelia opened the door one last time. She managed a broken smile. "We're really closed," she said, voice cracking. He stepped inside anyway, placing the bag on the counter the way he had thousands of mornings before. "I know," he answered softly. "I just needed to say goodbye to the only sister I ever had." Amelia's hand froze on the counter as the words settled between them like frost. She stared at the man she had served for 15 years, searching the lines around his eyes, the slope of his shoulders, the way his left eyebrow lifted just slightly when he waited for the coffee to cool. Everything about him suddenly felt familiar in a way that made her chest ache. She whispered, "What did you just call me?" He reached into the paper bag and drew out a tiny, yellowed photograph. It showed a newborn baby wrapped in a hospital blanket, eyes closed, a faint bruise on one temple. On the back, in their mother's careful handwriting, were the words, "Benjamin James Harper, born sleeping, las 8:14 ultimate," held only by his sister Amelia for 6 minutes. Amelia's knees buckled. She had never seen this picture. Their parents had hidden every trace of the lost twin, believing it would hurt less if the memory never existed. Benjamin, because that was the name their mother had chosen, laid the photo gently on the glass case. He told her how the nurse that morning had secretly taken the picture, how she had slipped it into his adoptive mother's hand years later when he turned 8, how he had moved to this town searching for the bakery their parents once owned, how every morning he sat in the same seat, hoping one day his sister would feel safe enough to remember him. "I never wanted to break your world open," he said, voice trembling. "I just wanted to watch you live in it." Tears streamed down Amelia's face as memories she never knew she carried began to surface. The feeling of tiny fingers brushing hers in the incubator, the soft weight lifted away too soon, the lullaby their mother hummed to an empty cradle. She reached across the counter and touched his cheek with flour-dusted fingers. "All this time you were here," she managed, "and I was serving you muffins instead of hugging you." Benjer opened his arms, and Amelia fell into them, the way she must have fallen toward him the day they were born. They stood in the quiet bakery for a long time, two strangers who had shared a heartbeat once, breathing the same cinnamon-scented air their mother had breathed while kneading dough. When they finally pulled apart, Benjamin reached into his coat and drew out a thick envelope. Amelia shook her head before he even spoke. "I can't take your money," she said. He smiled the small, patient smile she now realized she had seen every morning for 15 years. "It isn't mine," he answered. "It's ours." Inside were documents she never expected to see again. The original deed to the bakery, paid in full years ago by their parents, hidden in a truss no one had told her about. There was also a letter from the lawyer explaining that Benjamin had tracked it down, quietly paid every back tax and penalty for a decade so the bank could never touch it. All of it done in secret because he wanted his sister to keep the only home she had ever known, even if she never knew he existed. Amelia walked through the empty shop, touching the things that were suddenly safe again. The scarred wooden counter their grandfather built, the faded photo of their mother in her first apron, the bell that would ring tomorrow after all. She turned to Benjamin with wonder in her eyes. "Why wait so long to tell me?" He looked down at the floorboards. His twin sister had danced across barefoot as a child. "Because some mornings just watching you smile when you slid my muffin across the counter was enough," he said. "I got to be near family. That was already more than I ever thought I'd have." They spent the rest of the day unpacking the boxers Amelia had packed with tears the night before. Together they refilled the display cases, fired the old ovens, and hung the open sign that had come down only hours earlier. By evening, the smell of cinnamon raisin muffins drifted down the street again, stronger and warmer than ever. Years later, if you walk into Rosewood Family Bakery on any given morning, you will find two people behind the counter instead of one. Amelia still ties her apron the same way their mother taught her, and Benjamin still arrives at 5:30 sharp. Only now he comes through the back door carrying fresh eggs from the little farm he bought just outside town. They move around each other with the quiet rhythm only twins can share. He reaches for the cinnamon just as she needs it. She slides the tray into the oven the moment he pulls the previous one out. Customers notice the new light in Amelia's eyes and the way Benjamin sometimes hums the lullaby their mother never got to finish. The photograph from the hospital now sits in a small silver frame beside the register. People ask about it sometimes, and Amelia tells the story gently. How she once thought she had lost half her heart the day she was born, how it walked through her door every morning for 15 years, wearing a gray coat and carrying quiet love in a paper bag. Children press their noses to the glass case and listen wide-eyed, while Benjamin adds that some miracles take 32 years and thousands of cinnamon raisin muffins to arrive. On the anniversary of the day the bakery almost closed forever, they close early instead. They lock the door at noon, turn the sign to closed, and walk together to the little cemetery on the hill where an empty blanket was once buried. They leave 2 muffins on the stone that simply reads, "Baby boy Harper, beloved son and brother." Then they sit shoulder to shoulder in the grass and talk to the mother who never got to hold them both at once. Amelia always says the same thing when the wind moves through the trees. "Mom, he's home now. We both are." And somewhere in the soft rustle of leaves, a lullaby finishes the verse. It started long ago. Sometimes, the smallest act of kindness can change someone's world. Share this story if it touched your heart.